Hello there, Friend-Tastic friends. Today I'm going to work on my reading journal. I'm going to do my May setup for my reading journal. I did some pre-cuts here on some other dot grid paper where I wanted these to kind of fold out and open up. So I doodled on them. I already have them pre-cut and ready to paste down, and I have a general shape penciled out on my spread where I want to place them. I always find ways to kind of hide the stats for the month. And for May, I saw these really cute like camping themes in bullet journals, and I'm actually going camping in June in Joshua Tree. So I decided that since I was feeling those vibes, I would make that my spread for my reading bullet journal in May. I had to kind of go on the hunt for some binder clips because my bullet journal is getting so chunky that the pages don't want to lay flat anymore. So I had to find some to kind of help keep those pages flat while I glued these guys down. I always like to get a separate sheet of paper before I start using glue or glue tape, just so I don't actually get sticky stuff all over my journal. And now I'll just put in my stats at the end of the month, like under these tabs on both pieces, just however they fit. And I might need to put some stats outside on the actual scene itself, but either way, I've really shied away from so much structure in this one and just doodling and coloring wherever my mind takes me, and kind of filling in the stats later wherever I can get them to fit. So I'll make sure I link all my supplies below as usual. If you see something that I didn't link below, just let me know. You can see my test page here. I always recommend a test page in a bullet journal. But just to give you a quick rundown of some of my supplies here. I have a notebook therapy notebook. It is it's the one with the deer on it. I can't remember the exact name, but I'm pretty sure it's still in stock on their website. I'm using my Archer and Olive calligraph markers and my Tombow markers. They're both brush pens and they're both dual tipped. And so I really love using these types of markers. I do have Archer and Olive paint pens, but I tend to use my calligraphs and my Tombows more often than my paint pens. I don't know why. I just really like coloring with these markers more. So you can see I already have a plan penciled out. I did kind of like this camping in Joshua Tree type vibe with the sand and the mountains in the background. I drew some Joshua trees. At least I think they look like Joshua trees. You'll have to let me know below if you think they look like Joshua trees. And then I have this cute little camper that I drew and a little tent. And whenever I need to draw something specific like that, like a camper or a tent, I'll literally just Google it until I find a simple doodle that I like, that I think that I can copy, and I just kind of use that as an inspiration. So that's how I did my little camper and my tent. I just Googled like camper doodles and picked one that I liked and then kind of went from there. So I don't use Sharpie very often because I do find that it bleeds a little bit. But usually what I'll do is I'll just go back on that page and I'll put like a sticker there if I see it and it's really bugging me. Okay, other things that I'm using as far as supply goes, the dotted paper that I used to cut out the camper and the tent is from Archer and Olive as well, in their quarterly subscription box that I've talked about before. It comes 4 times per year. So for the quarterly subscription box that came in March, I got some of this colored dotted paper. So that's where I got the paper for this. I don't believe you can get the March box specifically anymore, but you can always sign up for the Archer and Olive subscription, and then you'll start receiving them quarterly. And those quarterly subscription boxes are one of my favorite things ever, because it just kind of appears now at my house without me having to do anything. And then it's like a little gift 4 times a year of awesome journal supplies. So that's where some of my calligraphs came from, was from the subscription box. Some of them I bought on my own. Some of them came from, oh no, I think gel pens came in the December one. But yeah. I feel like I can never have too many markers. I just keep buying them every time I see them on sale on Archer and Olive or on Amazon. I just keep buying markers. I don't know if anybody else feels my pain, but that's what I do. I didn't use any stickers for this spread, which usually I do, but for this one, I don't know why. I just wasn't feeling the sticker game this time around. Some people have asked what kind of stats I keep track of. So if you're new and you haven't seen my other setups or my reading wrap-ups each month, then I can let you know what kind of stats I keep track of. So every time I read a book, I write down obviously the author and the title in my reading journal, and then I keep track of the author's gender, the author's nationality and ethnicity. I keep track of where I got the book from and how long the book is, if there's any LGBTQIA plus representation in the book. I write down the publishing date, or at least the year. I write down the age group for the book. I write down the genre. I write down when I start it, when I finish it, and how many stars I rate it. I think that's it. And so basically what I do is I fill out a Google form for every single book that I read, and then my Google form generates graphs automatically, and if I need to edit the data or edit the graphs, I can do that super easily with Google Forms. You can create like an Excel spreadsheet from the form and then go from there. It makes it very easy to do graphs that way. And so either I will then transfer those graphs by hand and kind of draw them by hand, or write down the stats in like a table format, or just write down percentages, or I will cut out the graphs and paste them into my bullet journal and then label them appropriately. It just kind of depends on how I feel and what my mood is and what I think goes with the journal itself. I don't have a color printer, so I tend to not print as much and just end up drawing by hand for a lot of it. Or I just write down percentages. Like I just write down what percent of the books had LGBTQIA plus representation, or I'll just write down the 3 age groups, which is adult, YA, and middle grade, and then I'll just write a percentage for each of those groups, kind of like in a little table, that sort of thing. I like to keep track of when I start a book and when I finish a book, because I like to find an average amount of days that it takes me to finish books for the month. So I always find that really interesting, and then that way I can kind of look back and say, wow, it took me a long time to get through this book. I must not have liked it very much. Or I must not have been captivated by it right away. type deal. So that's why I like to keep track of when I start and finish a book. As far as like author, gender, and nationality goes, I really just keep track of that because I want to what they call decolonize my bookshelf, which is where you try to actively pick books that are not written by American authors, and you pick books that are not written by white males, because that tended to be the dominant author for a really long time, and it might even still be a dominant author to this day, would be a white American male. I don't know, but I have found that I do enjoy those different perspectives from authors of people of color, or authors that are LGBTQIA+, or women, things like that. It's very interesting to see how the perspectives shift. So that's why I try to keep a nice balance of my bookshelf and get all sorts of perspectives. That's just my personal preference. And if you haven't watched any video before, then I will let you know that I do these every month, and I definitely plan to do one at the end of the year. So at the very end of 2022, I plan to make a gigantic stats spread of every book I've read. And I also have a book bracket that I plan to fill out with my favorite book of the year. So you can always keep an eye out for that. As far as things coming up, I will definitely do my May reading wrap up, including my May stats. I'll do a June, bullet journal setup. And then at the end of June, I plan to do a 6-month flip through. That way you can actually see how I filled out my entire journal for the 6 months, from the beginning of 2022 all the way until June of 2022. So that'll be fun. My bullet journal is getting so thick and chunky. I don't know if it'll even last the year. I'm not sure. We'll see, because we're just now starting May, and I think I'm already at the halfway mark. I might even be over the halfway mark. I don't know how long the binding will last with this one. So these are the gel pens that I mentioned earlier that I got from the December subscription box. I do know that Archer and all have just released gel pens on their website. I'm not sure if they're sold out or not yet, but they did just officially release gel pens that you could buy without the subscription box. So I'm still kind of learning gel pen technique. It's very new to me. And so I'm kind of learning how to be patient and go slow to get a good coverage with the gel ink. But I do like it. It is an interesting medium to use. All right, so that wraps up my May bullet journal setup. This was April. I still have to fill in my April stats. I haven't done that yet with the books I've read. That's where I'll put my stats for May. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to title it, and then I'll go write it in my index as well. So in my index, I have every book that's in my bullet journal. I have written in my index with the page number. That way, years from now, if I want to go back and revisit my journal, I can just look through the index to see what books I've read and then have a page to reference for it. So I'm filling in what page my April books are on, which is like The Alchemist, Ready Player One, Under the Whispering Door, some Queer Eye memoirs and autobiographies. You can always check out my April reading wrap-up if you want to hear my reviews on all of those. I'll link it in the description. And you can see I've left myself a lot of room to make even more lines of my index there. And then I get to my reading tracker, which I drew this little bookshelf with this little book cart. And then I even have room there too as well to add another type of bookshelf if I need to on the right-hand side. So I basically just look at my key for my 1 through 5 stars or my DNF, and I color in the books. So I'm coloring in a few of the April ones that I didn't color in yet. And then just making sure I keep up with it. I kind of draw 1 or 2 shelves at a time for this, and then I really spread out the books. You can see that the ones that I've colored in right now are kind of spread out. They're not all right next to each other. And that way I can kind of move things around depending on what rating I give them so that I don't have like a clump of pink books together or something like that. And then basically I just go through and check off my other sub-trackers. So I have like my unread books that I keep track of. I have my series tracker. I have a list of books that are to be read. I started this back in January whenever my list was this short. At some point my TBR got so big that it would be way too time consuming to keep track of every single title in my bullet journal. But these are the ones that I had started in January, and so I still mark these off whenever I read them just to see, did I even get to the books that I wanted to read back in January? But yeah, that's my January spread, my stat spread. I made it look like a little hobbit hole door. And then here's my February stat spread. I kind of hand drew some graphs on there. Here's my March spread, which I printed out and pasted since it was a black and white theme. Here's April, where I'll put the stats in there. And then this is May. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Let's just take a moment to appreciate the chunkiness of this bullet journal. That spine is bustin'. Okay, bye.